Goki Ganyo homies, Wade Willis here for my playthrough of Umineko. This is Chapter 4, Part 18. The last part was pretty wild, not gonna lie. And I apologize at the end of the video, I kind of was reading pretty quickly because I had to go through that whole part over again. So I was like kind of frustrated. But yeah, I kind of left it at a cliffhanger. It looks like Beatrice has some like weird plan that she's going to do with Battler to, I don't know if win the game or what the hell she's trying to do here. It looks pretty interesting though, and it seems like other witches are a bit nervous. So yeah, here's the rest of my playthrough from that day. And yeah, guys, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel.
そなたにわらわの対戦相手たる資格があるかどうか、それを問う。よいか。その資格が認められれば、わらわは席にとどまり、ゲーム、そして、勝敗の決着がつくまで、永遠に戦い続けることを約束しよ
う。Now pull down your pants.
俺にはもとより、その覚悟はあるぜ。
しかし、その資格がなかったなら、そなたは消えよ。対戦相手が消えればゲームもない。わらわは堂々とここを立ち去れる。今日らもよろしいか。口出しは無用。
どうぞ、お好きなように。バトラー、あんた、しっかり答えるのよ。
資格があるからこそ、俺はここにいるんだろ。何も怯えることなんざねえぜ。
I don't know about that, dude.
まさか。
Gretel grew suddenly pale. I thought her to be calm and collected type, so that expression surprised me.
それではバトラ、赤で復唱してもらおう。
Oh, she's gonna see if he can answer the things.
俺に復唱要求ってか。俺のお箱を奪いやがって。しかし、赤き真実って、俺、どうやるんだ？
そうだと念じればできるわよ。簡単よ。
俺の名は、後宮バトラ。おお、こりゃ面白えや。
She's gonna back him into a corner.
あんたの狙いは読めてるわ。でもそれはやめて。彼は
When Gretel yelled, Beatrice glared at her. Then her form was wiped away in an instant.
うるさい。そなたはしばらく席を外せ。今日らもであるぞ。口出しをするならば、容赦せぬ。
邪魔はしないわ。どうぞご自由に。ベル、まずいでしょうが。あいつ消す気よ、バトラを。
なんだと、あいつ。何を。
それでは、資格を問うぞ。面白いな。普段のゲームが、攻守が逆になった。これは最後の最後で、とても貴重な体験だ。よいか。まずはわらわが赤で語る。わらわは黄金の魔女ベア、そして後宮金蔵の孫後宮バトラと戦うためにこのゲームを開催した。
そんなことはだからなんだ。
復唱要求。後宮バトラの母は後宮アスムである。
There we go.
あ？そこでなんでお袋の名が出てくるんだよ。
It's really his mom, huh?
無駄口はいらぬ。ただ赤で復唱せ。
Beato urged me with the same indifferent tone, but I don't have a clue what she's trying to do. I have absolutely nothing to feel guilty for that would trouble me if thrown in my face, and there's nothing that I'm hiding. There's nothing that could trouble me by demanding that I repeat it. So why do something like this?
いいぜ。復唱する。後宮バトラの母は後宮アスムである。赤便利だな。戸籍抄本を持ってくる面倒もね
無駄口はいらぬ。
Bro.
続けるぞ。そなたの名は後宮バトラである。
おう。俺の名は後宮
Is it
バト
though?
ラ。
Did you change it in the directory yet?
後
Officially?
宮バトラは後宮アスムから生まれた。
後宮バトラは後宮アスムから生まれた。
そなたは後宮アスムから生まれた。
俺は後宮
At that time, my throat suddenly closed. It was rapidly assaulted with a choking suffocation. What's going on? One more time.
俺は後宮アスムから生まれた。俺は後宮アスムから生まれた。さっきまでは簡単にできてたのに、急に赤がうまくできなくなったぞ。
復唱を拒否するのか。
拒否なんかじゃねえ。なぜかうまくいかねえんだ。俺は後宮アスムから生まれた。なんでだ。畜生、なんで赤が使えないんだ。そんなバカな。
My mom is Ushiromiya Asumu, right? Why can't I say that fact in red? What's going on? This is... oh.
語れぬ赤を無理に語ろうとすると窒息するぞ。無理をしなくてよい。以上の事実からわらわはそなたを青で追求させて覚えているな。青は相手を否定する仮説を宣言するのに用いる。それは赤での否定が義務付けられ、それがない場合勝利となる。では参るぞ。以上の復唱要求並びに復唱拒否からわらわはそなたに対戦相手の資格がないことを宣言する。なぜならベアトリーチェは後宮金蔵の孫である後宮バトラと戦うためによって対戦相手であるそなたには後宮金蔵の孫である後宮バトラであることを、それに対する復唱を、これは資格の喪失を意味するものである。
赤でそれの何かを否定するのよ。早く。
俺は後宮バトラだ。それを赤で復唱できている以上、俺はお前の対戦相手。
そなたが後宮バトラの名を持つことは事実である。しかし人命は独占されたものではない。複数の人間が後宮バトラを名に持つことは可能である。すなわちこういうことだ。そなたは後宮アスムの息子後宮バトラと同姓同名の別人である。
なんだとバカなことを言うんじゃねえ。俺はお袋の子だぞ。後宮アスムの子だ。俺は後宮アスムからなぜだ。
Dude, just say you're what's his name's son. Try that.
お袋から生まれたと言えないんだ。こんなバカなことがあるというのか。
苦しむことはな。わらわは遊ばぬ。これにてそなたは後宮アスムの息子ではない。
そんなバカ。
そなたは誰か。後宮バトラを名乗る 何者なの？
ちょっと待てよ。俺は、後宮バトラだ。俺は後宮アスムから生まれた、親父とお袋の息子だ。
いいや、わらわの対戦相手たる後宮バトラであるはずが、その証拠に。
証拠だと？
そなたは6年前の罪を知らない。
それは。
いいや、真の後宮バトラならば罪など犯さない。だが結果的に罪は起こる。6年の月日が空白となって、当時を何も知らぬ男が後宮バトラを名乗って六軒島へ姿を現し、
What the
その
hell?
真相はこうだ。
6 years ago, my opponent, the true Ushiromiya battler, was already dead. You were part of a plot by Rudolph, having something to do with the distribution of the inheritance. A bloody double set up in Ushiromiya battler's place.
そんなバカなことがあるもんか。そんなバカなことが。
バトラ、しっかりしなさい。まあ、言い返せないなら仕方がないわ。バトラにその資格はなかった。そういうことよ。ベル、それでいいの？それを認めちゃったらあんたも負けちゃうのよ。あんたが勝っちゃうんでしょう。なんでバトラの肩を持ってるの？残念よ、バトラ。あなたにベアトリーチェの対戦相手たる資格がなかったなんて、とても残念。資格のない駒に張ってたなんてね。私の乾杯だわ、ベアトリー。
He has the same color hair as Ainge too, which is kind of weird.
負けも勝ちもない。ただ対戦相手が消えるだけだ。元からいなかったと言うべきか。
じゃあよ、俺は親父やおふくろの子じゃ。俺は誰なんだ？何なんだ？おふくろの子じゃないってんならなんだよ。縁もゆかりもない赤の。
それならば金蔵の血は引いていないことになるわ。いずれにせよそなたにこのゲームの対戦資格はない。
バカなバカな。
もうよい。もともとそなたが後宮バトラでない可能性もだから問わねばならなかった。本当のバトラなら知っていることを聞かねばならなかった。残念だ。そなたがひょっとしたら本当に後宮バトラであるかもしれぬ。わらわは1000兆分の1の奇跡にかけたのだ。だがやはりそなたは同姓同名の別人だった。
Bit by bit, Battler's form began to be clouded in darkness. No, maybe it's the other way around. The whole world was clouded in darkness, leaving only Battler. Battler was down on all fours, hanging his head and repeatedly questioning himself. However, he was not given an answer. The world was stained with darkness. Beto spoke something, and Lambda Delta ran up to him, yelling something very quickly, but it already seemed very far away and it didn't reach Battler's ears. Then he, not knowing who he himself was, erased himself. What the fuck?
これで対戦相手は消えた。それではこれで今日らも 旅支度を整えられるがよい。我が領地にて、もう何も催しは予定されていない。それではごきげんよう。さらばだ。
Without saying anything more, she clouded her own form in darkness as well and disappeared.
あんた、これでいいわけ？バトラ、消えちゃったわよ。負けず嫌いのあんたが、この結末でいいわけ？あんたは、私の負けに張ってたんでしょ？なら万々歳じゃない。おめでとう、ラムダ。じゃあ、またどこかの世界で会いましょう。まあ、無限のかけら世界のこと。どこかでまたご縁がある確率は、それこそ、船長じゃあね。楽しかったわ。バイバイ。あ、待ってよ、ベル！
Chasing after Byrne, who had disappeared first, Lambda Delta disappeared as well. After that, everyone was gone, and the study was now completely empty. It returned to silence, almost as though no one had been there from the outset. No one was here in the first place. The silent study spoke that wordlessly, and the sound of the wind and rain began to fill the room bit by bit. In a world where everything had sunk into darkness, Beito questioned herself.
やはり、魔法は初めから、マリアージュ・ソルシエールの中だけで、使うべきであったな。
そうだね。マリアも、エンジェの時にそう思ったよ。
魔女同盟は、わらわとそなた、その二人で始めた。他のものを混ぜようというのが、そもそもの間違いであったのだ。
こんなにも楽しいから、マリアたちは、その輪に親しい誰かを加えたかったよね。そうして、魔女同盟がどこまでも大きくなって、みんなで楽しく魔法が使えて、幸せになれたらと願った。
だが、魔法を理解できるのは、やはりわらわ。
私たちは、奇跡が巡り合わせた、この世界でたった二人しかいない魔女なんだよ。マリアはもう、ベアとさえいれば、他には誰もいらないよ。
わらわもだ。そなたさえいれば、もう誰もいらぬ。
マリアージュ・ソルシエールは、結成したその一番最初の時点で、もう完成していたんだよ。
そうで、まさに、そうであるな。
It was once a witch's alliance to make everyone happy together with magic. I wonder when it got this screwed up. What did I want to do when I started this game? I can't really remember even that. No, I may remember, but that's a feeling now I wish to throw away from this far side of oblivion.
いいよ。何もかも忘れてしまおう。二人だけのマリアージュ・ソルシエール。私たちは互いを認め合う。そして誰にも傷つけられない。だからもう傷つかない。泣かない。すべて忘れよう。ね、ベアと私たちは永遠。
マリア。
Um...
天草、それ切ってくれる？
おっと、そりゃ失礼。M ザッキーはお嫌いで？
今が気分じゃないだけ。
Makusa turned the radio off. The world of cheery sounds was immediately swallowed up by the roar of the sea, and blotted out by the ocean's gray.
見えるかい？あの辺が当時の船着き場だ。
The boat captain pointed out, but I really couldn't recall that scene of 12 years ago. I thought I'd surely be able to immediately remember how things had been at the time, but no memories came back to me. After that incident, the island was sealed off and left to the wild. I couldn't satisfy myself with the thought that this was just inevitable, and it felt sad and painful for some reason. I mean, a bunch of people died. But at last I do remember one thing. You might say that it'd probably be the same anywhere on the sea, but I remember at least one thing. The seagulls. Yeah. The cries of the seagulls. I do remember those. When I was young, I rarely went to the ocean. So everything that symbolized the ocean meant Rokujima and family gathering to me. In short, it was a symbol of the happiness of going out with my family. However, at this point in time, it seemed doubtful whether even that was happiness. In my younger days, the trip had felt like a relaxed family vacation, but considering my parents' situation at the time, it was surely a very difficult trip to handle, with the distribution of inheritance filling the place with the smell of gunpowder. I can remember giggling all over the place, completely ignorant of my parents' feelings.
六軒島ですかい。すべての始まりで、すべての旅の終着駅ってわけだ。
Makuza, in an attempt to speak for my innermost feelings, tried to sound cool. The boat slowly rounded the island. I hoped that viewing it at a different angle might bring it back to my memories of the island's silhouette at the time, just a little. But in the end, even when that inlet was hidden completely by cliffs, I wasn't able to remember anything.
船長、さっきのもう一つの船着き場の話を聞かせてください。
六軒島には船着き場は一つしかないことになっとる。だがそれは表向きだ。
島裏のもう一つの隠された船着き場。
Whoa, this is going to be important, I
六軒
bet.
島そのものね。誰も知らない二つ目のもう一つの顔がある。
六軒島は後宮家の領有する島だ。だが金蔵さん個人が所有する島というもう一つの顔がある。
一つの島、二つの船着き場、二つ愛人を囲うためだけに随分と金をかけたもんだ。
もう一つの船着き場のことを知る人間は
限られとる。金蔵さん、執事の源次さん、わしら船の関係者、高齢の使用人がほんの数人だ。南城診療所の先代先生も熊沢のばあさんも知っとった。数えりゃ結構いるような気がするが、とにかく知っている人間はわずかだった。
そのもう一つの屋敷について教えてください。
クワドリアンちゅう名前のお屋敷があるとだけは聞かされとった。わしは船を離れることを許されんかったから一度も見たことはないが。
船着き場からは見えないくらいに遠いということですかい？
わからん。ただ隠し屋敷だからな。外からは見えん場所に建ててあったろうな。とにかくクワドリアンについてはあの島の最高の秘密だった。
クワドリアンにベアトリーチェが住まわされていた、あるいは幽閉されていたという説がありますが、
わしはクワドリアンへの雑貨も運んでおった。その中に女しか使わんような、それも高級なもんが含まれることも多かった。わしもその説を確信しとる。
では船長はベアトリーチェって女を直接見たことはないわけだ。
ない。20年近く出入りをしたが一度も見たことはない。
20年？ひゅ ってことは、最低でも年齢プラス20、こりゃ、マドモアゼルは期待できねえな。
だが、クアドリアンへの出入りは、ある日を境にぷっつりとなくなっ、今からだいたい30年前だから、
30,
昭和43年頃だったと思う。
68.
ぷっつりと突然。
食料やゴミなどの運搬往来で、わしらは決められた日程で裏っちゅうのは、クアドリアン側の船着き場のこと。
わかります。
That's where she died.
ある日、源氏さんから急な別の指示があるまで裏には行かなくていいって言うんだ。
別の指示とは？
特にはなかった。早い話が、ある日突然、裏には今後、定期便はいらない。食料も届けなくていいと言われた。わしは最初、クビにされたのかと思ったよ。だが、すぐに気づいた。それに、クアドリアンのことを知る使用人たちの様子からも、なんとなく察しがついた。
ベアトリーチェが死んで、食料を届ける必要も、世話人を送る必要もなくなった。
わしはそう考えとる。それっきり、裏へ船を出せという指示は受けてない。しかし、裏については死ぬまで何も喋るなと。その後、源氏さんが直接わしのところへ来て、えらく強く念を押した。
The plot thickens.
その20年間も放置されていた隠し屋敷にどうしてエヴァおばさんが？
On that day 12 years ago, Ushirome and Ava somehow escaped harm alone in a hidden mansion 2 kilometers away from the mansion. Why was she in a hidden mansion that had been forgotten for 20 years?
ワイドショーで見たよ。わしにも何が何だかさっぱりわからん。エヴァさんを裏へ案内したことは一度もない。どうやってクアドリアンを知り、たどり着いたのか。わしにはさっぱり。
裏のクアドリアンに陸路で行くことは不可能だったのかしら。
もしも話通りに未開の密林だ、おめかしした奥様風情に踏破できるもんじゃありませんぜ。
じゃあ回路？モーターボートみたいなものがあったとか？
まさか、あの二晩の台風は、そりゃひどいもんだった。船なんぞ使えるわけもない。
じゃあ、屋敷とクアドリアンを直
There we
通する。
go.
例えば
Bingo!
愛人の家へ出入りするのに、毎回船の用立てが必要なんて面倒でしょ？
全長 2km の六軒島の対角線上に存在する屋敷をつなぐために、そんだけの長いと、バカにしてえところだが、愛人のために隠し屋敷まで作っちまう大富豪だ。
Honestly, if the cave
そ
already
れも否定で
existed,
きんところですね。
it would not be that tough to
どうなん
cultivate.
ですか、船長。
わしは海の人間だ。穴のことはわからん。
I don't know about holes.
だが、硫黄島で旧日本軍は25キロのトンネルを掘ってみせた。あの金蔵さんなら2キロくらい掘ってみせても、わしは何も驚かん。
I mean, it's big, but really not
やっぱり
unthinkable
お
at
かしな
all.
島ね。私たちはこの島のことを未だ誰一人何も知らない。
The boat reached the shore. They would have to walk a short ways to reach the mansion.
わしはここで待っている。屋敷は向こうだ。当時の道が残っているだろうが、草木で覆われてしまってるはずだ。迷わんように気をつけてな。
ほんじゃ、行きましょうかね。
Good thing this guy's
ありが
here.
とう、天草。
Dude works for basically
あんたもここで待って
Blackwater.
て。
I'm sure he'll be able to find it.
ま、そう言い出すんじゃない。
届け物をするだけよ。あなたが一緒だと向こうが迷惑するの。あんたの毒素強そうだから。
Ah, okay.
毒素はて。
すぐに戻るわ。今日の本命はクアドリアンの方だもの。届け物をしたらすぐに戻ってくるわ。
Paige put on her knapsack, holding the flowers she would offer.
察してやれ、若いの。 行ってこい、お嬢ちゃん。あんたの家族が待っている。
I've never been on a road like this before, but I had no trouble finding my way. If I walked straight ahead, it would have probably guided me to the final destination for everything. It was true that the vegetation was incredibly thick, but if I didn't pay attention, I'd lose track of the path. But the road that was left was much clearer than I guessed it would be. Still, that didn't change the fact that it was a bad road. Contrary to the distance shown on the map, I was forced to walk a long way. The forest was deep and dark. At the time, I had been threatened into staying away from the forest because the witch lived there. Of course, that fear is gone now, but I feel it. Because I was me. I could feel the presence like an aura of the Golden Witch Beatrice. Here and there were massive fallen lumps of rock, along with overgrown trees and ivy, and the voices of the birds and bugs. Yeah, I feel it. I feel that the witch is here. Ahead, an ivy-covered construction site fence and a warning sign stood. No entry, Tokyo Metropolis. It was written on it. Yeah, that's right. When you think Tokyo, you tend to think of a city, but Rokujima is located within the Tokyo Metropolis. Apologizing to the sign for my rude mistake, I climbed the fence. When I crossed the steep slope beyond that, my field of vision rapidly expanded, and a fresh sea breeze blew through my hair. It was like I was on the top of a little hill. Below me was a vast view of the island. I could only see desolated forests and rock walls spread out below me, but I realized that the mansion was probably somewhere around there. The steep downward slope on the hill was probably been caused by the earth and rocks clapping from 12 years of wind and rain. It had become a slant filled with crags that you might even call gentle cliffs. It would be easy to tumble down, though it looked like climbing back would be pretty difficult. In any event, it seemed like proceeding any further would be impossible. If I continue any further, I wouldn't be able to return. In other words, this is the border. This place is 1986 and 1998. And it is that day and today. The boundary between this world and Nirvana.
ここがこの旅の終着点みたいね。
As the strong winds blew Mamon's and Sakataro's hair, they looked down from the hilltop.
ここからじゃさっぱりわからないわ。お屋敷はどこ？もっと近づきましょうよ。無理だよ。戻ってこれなくなっちゃうよ。
We won't be able to come back. Is that it? I see. This is 1998. And I'm Ushiromiya Ainge, who has been left all alone. At first, this was a journey to die. But not anymore. It's become a journey to accomplish something.
だからごめんね、二人とも。あの日の私なら、何も戸惑わずにこの崖を降りるだろうけれど。ビルの屋上から飛び降りた後宮エンジェが情けない。ごめんね。ここでも同じだよ。あの日の風が感じられるから。こんな風だったっけ？うん。もうすぐ来てくれるよ。みんな。
Sakataro said as though it was completely natural, and I believed it. Dad, Mom, Oni-chan, all of my relatives, and those fun servants, and Maria One-chan.
私よ。エンジェよ。私は帰ってきたわ。
When I started my journey to expose the past 12 years ago, my goal had been abstract, and I hadn't understood. But now I have no doubts. This journey was induced by several thoughts and fates over 12 years, and the journey to reach an end for me, Ushiromiya Ainge, and the journey to reach an end as the last witch of the marriage sorcery. I came here as the last daughter of the Ushiromiya family, and as the last witch.
お父さん、 母さん、お兄ちゃん、ごめんね。先に、マリアお姉ちゃんとの挨拶をさせてね。
A strong tailwind urged me on. Tailwind took just my soul out from inside my body to the vast forest beneath me. And though from here I couldn't see, I believe that it flew me to the mansion on that day, to where everyone was, to where Maria One-chan was. And so, even though my body was on top of the hill, a strong wind blowing against me, my soul was now certainly dancing through that sky. The vast, vast sky of Rokkenjima. Below me was the green of many trees, but I understand. I can comprehend the presence of my family and relatives and all the servants, and Maria too. I could even comprehend Maria as a witch. It was vast, more than any vast space I had imagined up until now.
マリアお姉ちゃん、聞こえる？聞いて。
Ange called out to Maria of that day. She told her the long journey that she'd undergone, of her long-delayed realization of just how much she'd wounded Maria in her youth. She understood magic and now understood everything about the world Maria had wanted to show her. It was very warm, overflowing with love and happiness. She wanted to become even happier by sharing that world, but I trampled it.
だから私、今こそ全部理解したの。
Do you though?
魔法を理解した。
Okay, well,
私たちの魔法はきっと、とてもささやかで、身近に溢れてる。でも、それは誰の目にも見えるものではないのよ。魔法とは、ええ、はっきり言えるわ。
Without love, it cannot be seen. Sorry, One-chan. I've already been excommunicated from the Alliance of Witches, but now I understand how wonderful it is. And I know that after that day I wounded you, marriage sorcery was transfigured into something different from what you truly desired. Even the magic that spat anger by cursing people was probably important to One-chan in those days. One-chan's environment was sad enough to permit that.
でも、もう、そんな悲しい日々は終わった。だから、お姉ちゃんの魔女同盟を、元の、優しいマリアージュ・ソルシエルに、戻そう。
The grimoire was in my hands before I realized it. The strong winds were rapidly blowing its pages one after another. The world had been kind in the beginning. How can you give birth to magic that would make candy fall from the sky? How could you give birth to magic that would make tomorrow's dinner cream croquet? How can you give birth to magic that would make the weather good when it went out the next day, making your whole day fun? New spells of happiness were created one after another, coloring her world with kindness. Those days were flipped through one after another, and months began to flash by. Pages with drawings that had once been colorful gradually began to change into the color of black ink. Eerie magic circles and demon summonings, evil magic for harming people. How could you give birth to magic that would cause the class bully to catch a cold? How can you give birth to magic that would seriously injure someone in the class so that they died? How can you give birth to magic that would cause a bus loaded with all the bullies to fall off a cliff? Malicious spells were created one after another, burying the pages and her heart.
私がお姉ちゃんを傷つけたから、マリアージュ・ソルシエルはこんなになってしまった。お姉ちゃんは黒き邪悪な魔女じゃない。白き、無垢で無邪気な優しい魔女だったのよ。私が元に戻してあげる。元のみんなを幸せにする魔法を世界中に振りまいていたマリアお姉ちゃんに戻してあげる。そのために私はここへ来た。運命に導かれてきた。お姉ちゃん、聞こえてる？その姿を私の前に見せて。
The voice rode an even stronger wind that was sent 12 years into the past. Then, The wind gradually ceased, and silence fell. Crunch, crunch. I could hear the sound of gravel being stepped on. I listened to those footsteps, surprised at this miracle. Without a doubt, those were Maria's footsteps.
マリアお姉ちゃんかすみよ。
I knew it would be
よう
this.
やく見つけたわよ。エンジェちゃん。
Before I knew it, Aunt Kasumi and her black suits, a total of 7 people who didn't resemble Maria in the slightest, were standing there surrounding me. And it felt like my voice had just been about to reach Maria's too. Because of these guys' toxin, that magic was cut off. Ange clicked her tongue at that, but Kazumi probably didn't hear it that way.
そのお花は亡くなった家族への？偉いわ。それ投げるんでしょ？いいわよ。それまで待ってあげる。
Just what are you waiting for? But Ange could more or less guess. The way the black suits unnaturally stuck their hands into their pockets clearly brought to mind the likelihood that they had handguns. This is a deserted island. There could be no more convenient place to dispose of someone. Yeah, this is like... I have absolutely no interest in the family matters of the Sumadera family. But if I die, all the wealth will go to them. Unlike me, they're probably very interested and concerned about this matter. Of course, it seems like the massive amounts of stock I own suddenly go to them. It'll be pretty bad for the Ushiromiya group as well. And they're apparently having a secret feud, fighting over me all by themselves. That's probably why President Okunogi gave me Amakusa as a guard. Having Amakusa wait on the boat was a regrettable mistake. Yeah,
おばさん、いつからここで待ち伏せを？早朝からよ。おかげですっかり待ちくたびれちゃったわ。何しろ喫茶店もお化粧室もないからね。トイレもないから、お上品に木陰で用を済ませていたわけね。仮にもスマデラ家の血を半分引いてる淑女が、そんな汚らわしい言葉を使うんじゃないわ。やっぱりスマデラキリエの子ね。気品のかけらもありゃしない。
Kyrie is awesome though. She grabbed me by the hair and forced my face up to hers, and then spat at me. My words might be filthy, but they're no worse than her spit. Yeah, I would say her spit's worse than saying that. おばさんが私のことを話すと、いつも母さんのことばかり。私、そんなにも母さんに似てますか？ええ、似ているわ。その生意気そうな目つき。鼻も口もそっくりよ。自由奔放で無責任。歴史と伝統あるスマデラ家の重みなど何も考えず、自分勝手に家を飛び出したわ。おかげで、私の人生はずっとその尻拭い。まさにあんたの人生、クソまみれね。 When I was slapped on the cheek, my ear was smashed, and for an instant my head rang. My hair was pulled, spinning me around, and I fell to the ground. And in a flash, the ground was kicked, and I was struck with sand.
ああ、本当に姉さんに似てきたわ。その目つき、そのどこか小馬鹿にした目つきよ。はあ、思い出すわ、いろいろと。哀れな人ね。
I would
きっと
concur with
幼い頃
that.
から何かにつけて母さんに比較されて蔑まされてきたんでしょ。そしてあんたは一生その惨めさから解放されやしないわ。お前みたいな小娘にはわからないわよ。あんたのお母さんはね、何もかもを投げ出してスマデラ家を逃げ出した負け犬なのよ。その負け犬のせいで私がどれほど迷惑したことか。
I'm guessing
あんたの
maybe a
迷惑な
bit.
んか私の知ったこっちゃないわ。私の生まれる前の話をされても困るわよ。あんたの人生はいつ始まりゃしないわ。 いつまでもいつまでも永久に死んだ母さんに嘲笑われ続け、
Damn.
そのまま死ぬのよ。というか死ねばなんで生きてるの？
この口の減らないガキが。ちょいとお茶をしてやりなさいな。
お任せを。口の利き方も知らねえクソが少し勉強させてやるぜ。
The black suits dashed up on me, violently grabbing me by the nape of my neck, dragging me down.
私が一服終えるまでに適当に。かわいいメイにちょいと身の程を教えてあげなさい。
Sumidera Kasumi. When I think about it, she was a pitiable person. To the outside world, the women of the Sumidera family were trained to be in a position that supported and deferred to men. But in actuality, strong leadership was required from them so that they could manage all the common people. The role demanded of them really was that of a female commander, like the literal reading of the word Okami. Managing the Sumidera family with all its traditions was not something that could be accomplished with just an ordinary level of dignity. It was an unimaginably heavy responsibility. Normally this would have been demanded of Kirie. Kirie had undergone that harsh training, and Kasumi, the younger sister, would have been able to take it easy. No, on the contrary, she lived like a lazy, selfish, affluent princess, sneering at Kirie, who had been given the heavy responsibility. However, Kirie had suddenly been disinherited. She had refused the fiancé her parents had arranged and gotten pregnant by her lover Ushiromi Rudolph. From the Sumidera's perspective, even though the Ushiromi family held a vast fortune, it was a low-level family that had already collapsed. And to become not even a legal wife but a mistress to the second son of that family, normally a daughter of the main family, would be shown no mercy for such dishonor. They would wrap her up in a mat, place her on a pole in the end, and throw her either into the Pacific Ocean, or if the pole fell into the right, the Sea of Japan if it fell to the left. But Kirie's punishment ended with disinheritance, an unbelievably warm-hearted decision. After that, the Sumidera family began receiving favorable treatment from the section of the Ushiromi group. There must have been some kind of backroom deal. In other words, Kirie openly left the Sumidera family under the pretense of gaining financial support from the Ushiromi family. Kasumi had watched it happen in shock. No, she even disparaged her dishonorable sister as a loser, but eventually she realized that the heavy responsibilities Kirie had borne would be passed on to her. And then, for the first time, she saw that she'd been outwitted.
あんたの母親のせいで私の人生はめちゃめちゃにされたわ。いいえ、一度殺されたと言ってもいい。
Oh my gosh. Oh, because you wouldn't have lived like some little
あの日に
princess?
私は一度殺されて地獄のような日々に突き落とされたのよ。
それまで人生舐めてきたツケじゃない。
Thank you, Angie.
口の減らねえ小娘だぜ。うら!
Makusa's about to turn up, and I think just machine gun these fools down. The black suit punched me in the gut, and I doubled over. But I was quickly grabbed by the nape of the neck and made to stand up again. Kasumi's cold-heartedly looked down at me, smoking a cigarette. The painful days after Kirie had left were floating around her mind. Until then, she had been allowed to be a simple lady, freewheeling and naive. Only the older sister Kirie had been harshly trained, and she, the younger sister, had been able to live nothing more than a princess. Then suddenly everything got flipped over and her life came crashing down.
私の人生も生活も生き方も事情を知らない親類からは姉さんの不名誉を理由にどれだけ蔑まれたことか呪ったわ。あなたのお母さんを血を吐くほどに呪ったわよ。
I mean, you should go to the doctor for that, to be honest.
これからもよろしく。
A kick landed on Ange's side as she crawled on the ground. Ange didn't stand up again, so she continued to lie like a caterpillar as she was kicked each time she spoke up.
あいつ 旦那と一緒でとても幸せそうに笑ってやがった私に全部押し付けて自分だけ幸せに。
だから何？私に八つ当たりすると、どうあんたが幸せに。私に八つ当たりすると、時間が巻き戻って、歴史が変わったりしてく。
あんた、さっき言ったわね。私の人生はいつ始まるのって。いくら恨んでも八つ当たりしても、時間を巻き戻すことなんてできない。じゃあ私は死ぬまでこうして、死んでもなお姉さんを恨み続けて。冗談じゃないわ。いつまで私は姉さんの亡霊に苛まれてなきゃならないのよ。だから考えたのよ。これを成し遂げたら、すべての恨みを忘れて、やり直せるってね。
Will you though? Ange was about to lash back at her, but stopped, because she'd been kicked again if she responded. Even if Kasumi didn't say anymore, Ange had a pretty good idea of what she meant. Kasumi thought that by taking revenge against Kiria's daughter, Ange, she would be able to put an end to her hatred. Talk about pushing her problems on the other people.
ほら、立ちなさいよ。そんなにこの島が大好きなら、しっかり深く埋めてあげるわよ。その若さで死にたくないでしょ？母が迷惑をかけてすみませんでしたとか言ってみたくはならない？
誰が言うもんか。
エンジ様、ダメ。こいつらを挑発しちゃダメです。ここは表向きだけでも調子を合わせて時間を稼ぐべきです。
くだらないプライドは燃えないゴミの火に出しとけってよく言うわね。
天草さんは、天草さんが来てくれればきっと。ダメ、あいつの姿は見えないわ。
Well, that's not good.
エンジ様のバカ、どうして天草を置いてきたんです？
I didn't need Mama to tell me. Yeah, I thought so too. I was seriously regretting it already. I walked a long way. The force was very thick. I've got no doubt that signs of activity here won't reach the boat. During the time it took for Kasumi to finish casually smoking a whole cigarette, I was continuously tormented by the black suits as she had told them to. The moment I grabbed at my head, my scalp was kicked by someone at a bad angle and my head was filled with stars. The feeling of stars flickering in this gray, twisted world was one I remembered clearly. My life was very similar to the one Sumidera Kasumi led. After all, as the successor of the Ushirome family, I was tormented constantly with various kinds of bullying under the guise of education and training. Yes, having the inside of my head filled with stars like this is a feeling I know well. When being reprimanded for some error in manners I seemed to have made, the discussion always turned to whether I was fitting to be a successor or not. On and on about the honor of the Ushirome family and how deep that was. By the time the conversation reached that point, I'd forgotten what the mistake I was being blamed for in the first place. No, in fact, it was the same for Aunt Ava. Sometimes she'd ask herself, what was it again? But in the end, she wouldn't be able to remember and would say something like,
私が怒っているということは、きっとエンジェが何か悪いことをしたのだろう。なら、その悪いことが問題なのであって、何をしたかなんて今さら思い出せなくても問題ない。
Okay, psycho. There'd be some ridiculous reasoning like that and she'd keep punishing me. Yes, Aunt Ava's punishment wasn't something that would continue until I learned something, or acknowledged my mistake or apologized. It would continue until Aunt Ava wanted it to stop. So this violence was a bit nostalgic in a way that made me want to vomit. I opened my eyes, and look, there's Aunt Ava. right next to Kasumi, who's smoking a cigarette. I could see Aunt Ava almost as though the two of them are laughing together. When I think about it, even Aunt Ava's life must be a thing worthy of my sympathy. My responsibility and pressure of being a member of the Ushiromiya family, which she often mentioned to me, have probably caused her great pain. After all, people can't make insults that they've never been able to targets of themselves. It was probably the same for Aunt Rosa as well. As the youngest of the honorable Ushiromiya family, she must have gone through many tough times. So it was just like what Aunt Ava did to me. Just like what Sumidera Kusumi is doing now. Aunt Rosa must have been the same. People tend to push the pain they're burdened with onto other people. Otherwise, they can never escape from that pain. So on and on, in eternity and perpetuity, the chain of pain and sadness does not end. That's why Maria's magic was so incredible. With her magic, she didn't have to bear the pain caused by Aunt Rosa. The pain was probably pushed onto her. Its weight probably tormented her, but One-chan didn't carry that burden on her own shoulders. She purified it and filled her world with happiness. So I'm sure, if Maria had been a children in the future, she probably wouldn't have pushed the pain that had been forced onto her own children. That chain of pain and sadness had stretched back for who knows how long, which she couldn't understand and which she had inherited, which had been forced onto her, Maria cut out with her magic.
なーに？私に何か文句でもあるの？
In the past, I would have snapped back. I would have met her hatred with hatred, so that they cancel each other out. No, nothing got canceled out. The thing being forced on me ended up right there on my shoulders. Just like how, even now, I hate her. So now that I know of magic, I'll look at the human called Ushiromiya Eva again. What could I see through to? Was a sad human form no different from me, who had lost her family, who bore deep wounds in her heart. Unable to withstand the pain of that torn heart, she was doing nothing more than howl sadly like a lion crying in pain, like a child. Even Ushiromiya Eva was someone I should have felt compassion for. She needed someone to understand the difficulties and pain of her childhood years. Even she, who was the only survivor of the Rokujima crime, who was faced with curiosity of all society, who was publicly slandered and forced to have salt continually flung into the wound, had needed someone's compassion. In order to let Ava forget her pain and sadness at least a little, the Black Witch taught her magic, just like the times it had possessed Aunt Rosa. It was the same magic of anger and sadness that Beatrice had taught Maria when she was mourning her torn-apart friend Sakataro. That same magic, that witch, had probably welled up inside Aunt Rosa too. So I mustn't hate Aunt Ushiromiya Eva. Maybe I should have become her ally, as the only person in the world who could understand her. What did I say to her when I was young, when she returned alive all alone? Could it be that I acted as if she'd kill my family and returned on her own? I can't believe it. Aunt Ava, who had been through more than an object of a synonym for hatred throughout my life, is turning into a human I can understand. So, I can see right next to Aunt Ava the form of the Black Witch who taught her black magic. Aunt Ava was crying. It was only natural. Not only was no one willing to understand the pain of losing her husband and son at once, but her only relative had insulted her, saying, "Give me back my dead mom." I can make the excuse that I was merciless because of my youth. However, to her at the time, it had probably been cruel enough to sever the last thread in her heart. In the following days, the talk shows and magazines publicly slandered her. The truth of her husband's business and character, and even her beloved son, were negated. She no longer had anything left. She could do nothing but cry, howl, even forget the pain and sadness, at least for a while. After all, she could only feel a tiny bit of release, and only during the time that she howled. And so the Black Witch taught her to how to howl. The one I hated was a Black Witch. Black magic could probably release one from the pain for an instant. However, it never lifts that weight from a person's shoulders. On the contrary, it forces that weight onto further victims, filling the world with hatred. If only Aunt Ava knew of white magic and had a true witch nearby. Shouldn't that have been me? Didn't I learn magic to create happiness for Maria? If I taught her with that magic, could we have built a future with a completely different relationship? Up until now, I've hated Aunt Ava constantly, so I didn't notice the Black Witch beside her. Without love, it could not be seen. I didn't have any love for her. And now finally, I glare back at the Black Witch, the one I truly should hate.
あら？何？私のことが見えるの？
見えるわ。私が憎むべきはエヴァおばさんじゃなかった。あんたよ。
すごいじゃない。人間の分際で魔女の私が見えるなんてね。それで？その目つきは何だと言いたいわけ？私が憎い？
憎い？ええ、憎いわ。でも、少し違う。ただ、悲しく思える。
Boom, roasted.
何言ってんの？いいじゃない、怒れば。思いっきり憎んじゃえば？
憎まないわ。あんたを憎むことは、エヴァおばさんの憎しみをそのまま受け継ぐだけ。私は憎しみを断ち切る。エヴァおばさんの苦しみを受け止め、それを払って捨てるの。
何悟ったようなこと言ってるわけ？こいつ、頭大丈夫？
That's actually the right way to look at life.
へそでも噛んで死んじゃえば？あんたら、もっともっと蹴ってやりなさい。顔とかはダメよ。気の毒な顔がマシになっちゃったらつまんないから。
The black suits persistently kicked my stomach and back, as though they had been ordered by the Black Witch.
やれやれ。答えないね。私を私が憎い。憎いでしょ？私もよ。
Kasumi sneered at me, but for some reason I had the feeling that she was crying behind that expression. Just like me, the pain being forced into an unreasonable life would never, ever heal. The sad lion, gasping in pain from the thorn he can't get out, continues to howl.
ほら、スマデラかすみ、見てごらんなさい。かつてのあんたがそこにいるわ。気分が晴れるでしょう。かつてそこにいたあなたが、今度はこっち側にいるのよ。愉快でしょう。立場が逆になるのは。
本当に愉快だわ。なんでそんな顔ができるのよ。
And Angel's like 18. She just has these men beat the shit out of someone who's barely an adult.
泣きたいんでしょ？
そうそう、泣きたいに決まってる。泣かせちゃいなさいって。 の時のあんたは泣かされちゃったじゃない。だからこいつも泣かせてやりなさいよ。エンジェもいいのよ。泣いちゃえば
泣きなさいよ、エンジェ。あんたの泣き顔が見たいのよ。泣いて、ごめんなさい、かすみおばさんって言ってごらんなさいよ。
あの言葉、辛いでしょ？自分のせいじゃないことを謝らせられるのって本当に辛かったでしょ？同じ思いをさせてやる。そうすることであなたの痛みは和らげることができるの。もっと自分に素直になりなさい。もっともっといっぱいに自分の感情を吐き出しちゃえば。
The Black Witch provoked Kasumi, and Kasumi began to give herself over to that dark emotion by turning deep sadness into an evil alcohol and forcing it down, trying to forget it for just an instant. Nothing would change. The words that Kasumi insulted me with were themselves sad. And I couldn't forgive the Black Witch who had imposed that sadness on Kasumi. I had gone limp, which seemed to have stopped the black suit's kicking competition. Or maybe the kickers were getting tired too. Kasumi didn't order them to stop, but at some point they did. However, I was reflected in Kasumi's eyes, and they burned me with flames of hatred. She had been tempted by the witch to do that in order to relive her own pain.
スマデラかすみ、まだよ。まだまだ踏みにじりなさい。あなたの人生はこんなほんのちょっとの乱暴で許せるの？
許せないわよ。まだこれくらいでは許せないんだから。
でしょ？許せるわけがない。もっとよ。もっと憎悪の炎を。憎しみの炎でしかあなたは暖を取れないの。怒りと悲しみの雪原で凍えるあなたを温められる炎は憎しみだけなのよ。
I honestly didn't really think we were gonna deal with Ava Beatrice like anymore.
ほら言って。叫んで。憎しみの方向で自分を燃やし尽くしちゃえば。
後ろ宮エンジー！あんたを憎まなくちゃ私は生きてられないの。
What a psycho.
スマデラかすみ、あの花束を。これ、死んだ家族への花でしょ？エンジェ。
The Black Witch grinned at me unpleasantly, using her chin to signal Kasumi to pick it up. Kasumi picked up the flowers I was going to offer, brought them all the way over to me, dropped them, and made a show of trampling them. Her expression was filled with hatred, and a frantic quality that couldn't be explained with hatred alone. She trampled them over and over again, as though her sadness was reaching the bursting point. So the sound of her trampling, it was just sad.
あら、この程度じゃ答えない？ならこっちは答えるかしら。スマデラかすみ、こっちを使いなさい。それは。
Said the grimoire. The object the Black Witch pointed at was Maria's grimoire. Kasumi also noticed it and picked up that book, which was heavier than it looked.
なにこれ。
読んじゃえば。お腹がよじれちゃうかもね。
Kasumi opened up the grimoire, skimmed over the contents, and snorted derisively.
返して。それは、お姉ちゃんの。
Of course my hand couldn't reach. My stomach was once again kicked by the black suits and I doubled over.
ほらね、この本はエンジェにとっての大切なものでしょ？大切なものをけなしてやりなさい。こういう子には殴る蹴るよりもそっちの方が効くんだから。 あなたがそれを一番よく知っているでしょ？
As I remember something painful, Kasumi's face twisted for an instant, but that quickly disappeared, changing into a scornful smile directed at me.
なーにこの気持ち悪い本。あんたが書いたの？
やめて。返して。見てよ、あの顔。もっとけなしてやりなさい。貶めてやりなさい。尊厳を踏みにじられる苦痛を教えてやるのよ。そうすることでしか。何これ、恥ずかしい本。
I hope someone like Bruce Lee cross-kicks Kasumi off this
少女
cliff.
の時代に
I would be
多
pumped.
少は占いの真似事に興味を持つこともあるけれど、これはちょっと行き過ぎじゃない？やだ、魔法だって。あんた、あれでしょ。アニメとかの、なんとかなんとかって呪文を言いながら魔女に変身するやつ。ああいうの好きなんでしょ。痛々しいわ。
Cackling Kasumi opened a random page and showed it to the black suits. The black suits looked too and baffled. That snare didn't wound me, but I couldn't forgive it. After all, that snare was ridiculing Maria. I don't hate Kasumi, but for forcing that unhealing anger and sadness on Kasumi, I could not forgive the Black Witch. The Black Witch ate into Aunt Ava, Sumidera Kasumi, and Aunt Rosa, tormenting them for an eternity without letting their wounds be healed. I can't forgive her. I can't forgive the Black Witch.
何これ？傑作！お空から飴玉を降らせる魔法ですって？何々？お日様で清めたお水にお砂糖を溶いて、魔法の杖を浸して呪文を。何これ？痛い。
The black suits were also rolling around, coughing. Then grinning, the Black Witch whispered something into Kasumi's ear. After glaring at me with a grin, Kasumi took that page. Kasumi grabbed a hold of that page, tore it off, crumpled it, and threw it away.
ひどいよ。それは、マリアの魔法。
That's some messed up shit.
あら、そうなの？それはお気の毒。
It was one of the spells to summon happiness that Maria had made with Sakataro. Anyone that knows making sugar water, coloring it, and leaving it in the window isn't going to make candy fall from the sky. But after repeating that every day, one time on her way home from school, she had found several pieces of candy scattered around. How happy must that miracle have made Maria? Didn't she treasure that candy, eating it during her night alone with Sakataro to distract herself from her loneliness? That magic that One-chan had given birth to had been torn and thrown away, and had disappeared. The whole miracle of happiness that magic had given birth to had been torn and thrown away.
これも傑作だわ。晩ご飯をクリームコロッケにする魔法。次は何？ピーマンが美味しく食べられる魔法？これも生かすわ。バカバカしい。それも破いちゃえ。どんどん破いちゃえば。
With a brutal loud laugh, the Black Witch made Maria's spells get torn one after another. Magic of happiness was sneered at. I wouldn't be surprised if Beatrice showed up and just started wrecking shit. And thrown away.
やめろ！やめろ！マリア教の魔法を怪我すな！汚い毒素で怪我すんじゃない！いいじゃない。怪我されちゃえば魔法の奇跡 幸せにする魔法？ないない、そんなのないってば。
Of course you don't think that exists.
痛みと苦しみはね、他人に押し付けてしか癒せないのよ。あんたは確か魔法のお友達とかいうやつだったわよね。スマデラかすみ、こいつのページを開きなさい。
これは何？魔法のお友達ですって。煉獄
Oh,
の
hell
七姉妹。物騒なな。すごい速さで飛んで敵をやっつけてくれるんですって。エンジェ、あなたこんな魔法が使えるなら今すぐ使った方がいいんじゃない？くだらない。
That page that wrote the Seven Sisters of Purgatory was also heartlessly torn away. The page itself was just paper. It wasn't Mamon's vessel or anything. But the tearing, denying toxin burned Mamon from the inside. Mamon's face twisted from that heat and pain.
大丈夫、マモン。しっかり。これくらい平気。私よりエンジェ様の方が辛い。やめろ、黒き魔女。どうして君はそんなことをするんだよ。どうして魔法を幸せのために使えないんだよ。ああ、あんたも魔法のお友達ね。あんたも怪我してあげるわ。
Oh, hell no.
スマデラかすみ、こいつのページも探しなさい。
こっちは何？何この下手くそなライオンの落書き。作太郎？変な名前。一番大好きなお友達だって。そうなの？これがあんたの友達？
I saw like 15 people die last episode, or earlier in the episode. Didn't bother me. This is pissing me off though.
本当に下手くそな落書き。こんなブサイクなライオンがあんたなのね。こんなのお友達にしてるなんて、後ろ宮マリアって子の頭のかわいそうさに呆れて、へそでお茶が湧いちゃうわ。ばっかみたい。へそ噛んで死んじゃえば。うりゅ、マリアをバカにするな。やめて、破かないで。ダメ。
There was a shrill sound. The page had been filthily ripped out. The picture of Sakataro and that Oni-chan had drawn was violently ripped in half. The hell is going on here, man? Can someone show up? What the hell, man?
くそな。
お前たちも笑いなさい。
A pair of black suits laughed vulgarly and heartlessly trampled on two halves that had been torn and thrown away.
サクタロ、しっかり。僕はただ悔しい。マリアのことをバカにされて何も言えない自分が悔しい。私たちは、見えない人間には、私たちは必要としてくれる人間としか。だから家具。
As Sakataro and Maman supported each other, they crouched down sobbing. I couldn't stand it either. Those who can't see how wonderful the world of magic is can't understand it. You can't explain to humans who can't understand, so it gets belittled. if you could show them it, but you can't. Because in front of humans who are filled with the magic-resisting toxin and who can't understand magic, magic cannot be used.
本当にわけがわかこの妄想日記。頭がおかしいとしか思えない。あんたのお花畑の頭の中が垣間見、気持ち悪い子。
あんたもマリアも、そこのぬいぐるみと家具もね。
あんた、友達いないんでしょ。いっつも一人ぼっちで、ぬいぐるみがお友達なんでしょ。かわいそうな子。大丈夫。そういう生活、わかるもの。だから私があんた、本当にかわいそうな子よ。
To you, it will probably look like something made by a pitiful child. That's right. If 100 people were to read One-chan's diary, 100 people would probably think the same thing. I used to be like that too. But you know, despite all that, Maria summoned a world of happiness. Don't deny that magic, that happiness.
頑固な子ね、あんたは。いいわ。これで最後よ。あんたとマリアの信じた本当にくだらない魔法の根源を引き裂いた妻寺かすみ。そのページを読みな。
なに？このカラフルなページ。なに？大好きなママといつまでも仲良しでいられる魔法。
やめて！そのページだけは！
この魔法すんごく簡単じゃない？私でもすぐできそうだわ。こんなに短い呪文なら、やってみようかしら。
いいわよ。やってあげなさい。みんなも吹き出しちゃうから。
With expressions that ridiculed her from the bottom of their hearts, the Black Witch and Kasumi tapered their mouths, and they said it aloud. Is this gonna actually screw them over? The black suit stared blankly, asking what the hell that was supposed to be. When Kasumi answered, cackling,
これがね、おかしい。
Oh, that makes so much sense now.
ほら、あんたたちもやってみれば？
The black suits imitated that moaning voice, making fun of it. Ooh, ooh. That was the incantation for magic that would let her always be friends with her beloved mother.
なにこのバカみたいなの。
Which is interesting because she usually got beat after she did that a
言う
lot.
だけで家族仲が良くなるなら世界はずっと平和だわ。バカなうなり声。
こんなの連呼してたら頭のかわいそうなこと思われるのがオチよ。
That's not wrong.
じゃないやめろ。その魔法だけはけなさないで。
It was the day of a picnic when Maria and Aunt Rosa were alone. It was written that on that one of the 5 happiest days of her life, One-chan was singing a song that she learned from her mama. Her mother had been delighted, but partway through Maria forgot the lyrics. But when she saw her mother so happy, she was trying to sing until the very end. With ooh, ooh, ooh. Even though she'd only pretend to know the lyrics, her mother had enjoyed it a lot. Oh my gosh. That is so sad that that's the... So there's a whole meaning to that. After that ooh remained as an incantation to remember that day she'd spent in fun and happiness with her mother. Of course, even though she seemed to find it funny at first, Aunt Rosa eventually eventually tired of hearing it, and eventually started scolding her when she said it. But to One-chan, it was a memory of a fun day that she'd never forget. So among the spells that Maria created, that was the oldest and the first. Kasumi stuck her fingernails into that page too.
やめて。破かないで。そのページだけは、許して。ダメ。
This bitch. With a shrill sound, a girl's world of happiness was erased.
これがあんたらの幸せな魔法なわけ。笑っちゃう笑っちゃう。幸せになる魔法なんてね、あるわけないでしょ。魔法はね、怒りとね、憎しみでできてるのよ。幸せってのはね、自分の背負わされた憎悪を人にすべて押し付けた時にのみ与えられる解放感を言うのよ。あんたたちの言う幸せなんて、絵本の中にしか出てこないまやかしなのよ。
As Kasumi laughed her head off and then slammed the grimoire against the ground and stomped on it.
悔しい？ねえ、悔しい？幸せの白き魔女さんたち。そんなに悔しかったら見せてみれば？あんたたちの魔法。あるなら使ってみせればいいじゃない。魔法が使えない魔女なんて魔女じゃない。つまり本当の魔女は私たち。あんたたちなんて、魔法の夢で現実から逃避しているだけのクソガキどもなのよ。
じゃあ、魔法を私が見せることができたなら、お姉ちゃんの魔法を信じてくれるの？
Okay, I'm actually going to stop here because I feel like it's about to change, and I've been going for quite a while. Yeah. Good episode overall. I mean, this shit was super sad though, but very good nevertheless. Yeah, I did not expect to have Ava Beatrice really involved much at all, but makes sense that she's that black witch that has been kind of screwing everyone over. So we think maybe there's something else going on. But yeah, really, really good episode. And yeah, I'm super pumped to see how this ends for episode 4 / chapter 4, as I call it. But yeah, very intense, I should say. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts.